This right here is April O'Neill. She is my red-eared slider that I have had since 2013. I got her from someone who intended to release her into the wild in South Carolina. That would have been invasive species. And I got her at about 2 years old. She had been gotten by that person at a flea market as a baby illegally. Well, yeah. So I chose to try and figure out how to keep my turtle better because, as you can see, her tail was, or her scoots were not coming off and shedding as well as I wanted, and she needed a better environment. This is a 75-gallon tank. This right here is a tank that I got and transferred her to in 2022. Originally, this tank had a basking area, this basking area over here. It was already made, but only half this length. And I have my basking area set up here with half the volume of water, and had a very difficult time keeping the tank clean because she is a dirty, dirty little beastie. They produce a lot of waste as turtles, and when she eats, she's messy, meaning that there's a lot of waste left from her food that rots in the tank. That rot led to there being a lot of odor coming from ammonia and nitrogen in the tank, spiking as waste broke down, and from just the waste itself. And that led to the tank being really, really difficult to maintain because a mechanical filter is not going to take care of all of that. So I started trying to figure out how I could make this tank better for my turtle. The first thing I needed to do was increase the salination point of the water, or the not salination. The solubility of the waste in the water. I needed to increase the volume of water so that the waste to water ratio was going to be much easier to manage. The solution of waste in the water, the more volume of water you have, the more waste the water can hold without it being a problem. And I needed something to eat those products or to consume the byproducts of that decomposition from bacteria breaking down whatever's left in that tank. But turtle eats the plants, always. So how am I going to get more volume in the tank? How was I going to get plants in this tank? Well, as you can see, this is my solution. It started off with raising the basking area using PVC pipes. This right here is a piece of tile purchased at the hardware store. This right here is ceiling egg crate that's baffling for a ceiling or whatever. And then this is glued on using aquarium grade silicone. So do not use just regular old silicone. This is specifically not going to leach anything out that would kill fish or mess up with the bacteria or the turtle's natural environment. So it's healthy for the turtle, or at least it's safe for an aquarium. Then I have my tubes, and I extended those. For the above tank basking area, this is acrylic. I got it cut at the hardware store to the size. As you can see, there is a slight bend to the material. Acrylic, that it wants to be sprung and straightened. That slight tension holds this aquarium nice and firmly so that it can't be bumped by the turtle, using just the physics of its own tension. This right here is the edge piece one would use for drywall. And I essentially glued it on to the acrylic, and then I bent the corners of this edge piece down so that it holds on and holds my 90-degree corner. However, this is again flexible enough that it can be held on via tension. Easy, simple way to use its own physics for what I want it to do. Again, egg crate material with holes cut for that dispersion of light right there. And then again, just that drywall edging just to hold this firmly on. Use zip ties. And these plants just needed extra light, so why not use that edge? Over here is how I am keeping the turtle tank a lot cleaner. This right here is, again, that same sealing edge. All of this came from one piece, so it was very easy to cut using scissors. The little pieces fly everywhere, but it works. And then here are just all the different ways that I have this tank being filtered. So rather than just having this canister filter, I decided that there needs to be multiple different types of filtration in this tank. So we've got this canister filter. Inside that, it has a mesh sleeve to do the bulk of the larger particle removal. And it has biological filtration, as there are plenty of places for the bacteria to do that process of breaking down what gets caught on the filter. And it gets put out through the nozzle and creates a current. That current comes across the heat right here. Also, this little potted set of grass that's just, it's one more place that there's something that will take in and remove waste. Another potted plant, and you can see right here, I am leaving all of this because I know this weed stuff will eventually break down, and that broken down material will then be used by the plants. So it's still worth leaving the leaves in the tank. You can see this is my biological filter marsh that I created. I needed a way to keep the plants higher than the top of the tank because not all of these have roots yet. So this is a propagation station made using biorb balls, and the balls are put into a mesh bag to distribute the buoyant lift of the balls across that net, distributing it across that piece of, again, ceiling baffling. And that right there gives me a nice little marsh area to allow small objects and small plants to root. And again, all of this inside here, those biorb balls are made to catch that bacteria, to digest waste and to filter. And the mesh bag is going to collect larger pieces of that waste. And, it's going to break down and feed to the plants that I'm trying to feed, so that it doesn't have soil, but it also has nutrients right there. And then you have the already rooted plants that are already working to remove the carbon dioxide from the bacterial respiration that is going on in this tank. as the bacteria is breaking down waste. So this removes that excess carbon from the water, and removes the excess waste from the tank and creates the plants who are happily undergoing photosynthesis. I've got the lovely bulb right here that is a grow light, and this other filtration. Now this filtration is, again, it's filled with a lot of waste, but this waste right here, all of this is good bacteria that is digesting that that material or the stuff in the tank that I do not want, and helping to filter that water out. And then leaving, undergoing the respiration, probably maybe even a little chemosynthesis in there because it is dark in some places. Maybe, I'm not sure. It would stand to reason because I don't have soil, but I do have fish poop mud essentially in here. And then I have in here, you can see again, that little trickle of water combined with all of the plants, anything that's green out there or under the water is putting off oxygen. And that oxygen is oxygenating the tank so that the living creatures in the tank have the oxygen it needs, they need to have to undergo respiration. And as you can see, I've got some pothos in there. I've got a bunch of different Tradescantia types, monstera leaves, the grass, tiny little Tradescantia there. And you can see a little Java fern that is fully aquatic. You can see there are fish and that warming element. And by pushing, the other thing I needed to do for this tank is create zones of movement. If I was going to add fish in to the tank, there needs to be areas that are fast enough for the fish to be able to swim and engage in that natural go, go, go behavior when they need that exercise or they need that movement. So this right here, this nozzle hits this back wall, and as you can see, really moves this grass pretty solidly. And then as it's hitting here, this is also pulling water upward through this intake. So it's really creating that pull. This area right here becomes a very rapid little spot that is also nice and warm. So there are times when I will have a whole school of fish just zooming around right here, facing that way and going as fast as they can, like they're in a race. It's like a fishy treadmill in this corner. They love that. And it is an entertainment zone for them, an enrichment zone. They have places where if they need a break from that speed, they can immediately come into this area and get that space. The roots are also an excellent place for the biology that breaks down waste and dead leaves and the excess food waste from the turtle tank. And these roots from the grass were part of a pond at Ace Hardware. They gave it, he gave me that lump for free because they were getting rid of it. And so this and all of this carpety kind of algae that's in here came from their pond. And of course, that has the bacteria to break down pond waste because that's literally what it was sitting in. So I brought good bacteria in, and a lot of these pothos and a lot of these plants, specifically like the Dracaena, a lot of these things had already had roots. And so they had been sitting in a jar with bacteria that had already been digesting leaves that I allowed to sit in it. So they were already in kind of a position where they brought healthy bacteria into this aquarium environment as well. Now you see there are fish. There are rosy red minnows. Those were my very inexpensive, got them 2 weeks ago to really jumpstart the first push on this aquarium. Because whenever you add new creatures into your tank, it's going to throw the water off because you have more poopers, more producers of carbon dioxide in the water, and more producers of waste, which feeds the bacteria. So I got the 28-cent red rosy minnows. I actually got 9 of them. Not all of them have made it, but they are live bearers. And so they will probably pop out babies one day. I think that one might actually be pregnant, possibly. I know I've seen a couple of them that look like they are pregnant. That one might be. I can't really tell at this angle. But they are going to have babies at some point. And that will be fry that can be eaten then by the turtle. And if they survive, hey, fish in the tank. Resupplies themselves. I also have diamond tetra. I added those last Thursday after class. I got 6 of those, and they are all very happy. And I think one of those might be pregnant. And so that goes back to needing zones of movement. So you can see how as you move forward in the tank, that's your little turtle, the water pull on this side of the tank is going to be a lot slower. So again, this right here is an excellent place for the breeding activity for my live fish. And that's important when you have a tank where you have a predator that will eat the fish. It's going to get expensive. Live bearers help with that. And in the tank, there are also snails. The fish, the snails, those are actually my cleanup crew as well, because she eats food and it gets everywhere. And so if we take a closer look at what is in my soil, you will see that there is a ton of algae and there is dirt from the pond that has all kind of good bacteria. You have this wood right here that has been quite aged. And you have a rock there that is just absolutely, it's so gross right now. To feed the plethora of snails that are now in this tank. They don't come out until it's nighttime. I typically don't get to see them. But as you can see, there's a ton of algae in this tank. And a pretty piece of labradorite. Because I put the gemstones that I really liked from a trip that I did the little panning and gem mining. So those, I mean, yes, they're beautiful. They're functional. They also, if they're gonna break down in water, they're probably gonna have something good for plants, right? So minerals in my water, and a turtle who desperately needs to shed her scutes. She is undergoing a growth spurt now that she is in her environment and very happy. And last but not least, chemosynthesis. I definitely need to have as much carbon removing bacteria and as many processes as possible. So that hole right there goes into the underside of this basking area. And this, actually, these legs are all hollow. It's all connected. Now, currently there is nothing in these tubes that I put. So I did not put any sand. I did not put anything into the tubes. I left them hollow. And I left them hollow knowing that by opening that little hole, waste and dead bacteria will naturally, over time, as always happens, will eventually create some form of settlement, silt, from, whatever has been kicked up in here. There are minerals and silt in here that, as you can see, float all around. Sure, that may get in there. But dead bacteria will definitely get in there. And as it is digested, it becomes the kind of stuff that hopefully will create chemosynthesis, or bacteria that undergo chemosynthesis, because I don't have really a space to put deep soil for the chemosynthesis sink that I need in this. And so this has been how I have attempted to address, you can see that little funky corner of stuff that will eventually help clean my tank. This is how I have attempted to add all 3 ways of recycling carbon within my tank. So you've got respiration, you've got photosynthesis, and you hopefully will have chemosynthesis. So all the carbon is recycled. It has also provided places for respiration, which, gives lots and lots of good carbon in for all the plants that I am doing. There are zones for all the animals, so that this little pipe right here actually was my first attempt to get some kind of chemosynthesis in it. It's hollow. But honestly, the way I feel is it's probably a place where snails are really down to be. It's probably not as dark as it would need to be for chemosynthesis. Like, I'm going to guess maybe that corner is nice and decently dark. But I don't think that this tube will get as dark as these poles will. So, again, adding more places for healthy bacteria. Also, I know a lot of people are annoyed by algae, but I like that I have so much of this algae in here, because honestly, as it starts to go, it is going to be really good for the fry that I'm probably going to have. Look at how beautiful these guys are. All right. So now you know. This has been how I have improved my turtle tank.